All right, guys, so sticking with the theme of Captain America Brave New World, we've talked about it a pretty decent amount this episode, but I wanted to touch on it one more time in one more segment. And that is, how does Captain America Brave New World fit into the MCU? We've talked about the post-credit scene, right? And, we'll get into that a little bit more, but I just wanted to generally pick on some of the threads that were laid into Captain America Brave New World and see what direction they might be pointing in. So, let's go into that right now. And this is, of course, going to be spoiler-filled, a spoiler-filled discussion of Captain America Brave New World. So if you have not seen Captain America Brave New World, no worries. Just make sure to save this segment, save the podcast for a little bit later once you have. So let's start to pick apart some of those threads and see where they might be leading in the future of the MCU. Maybe nowhere at all. For all we know, Eternals is an example of a film that, I guess, got paid off somewhat. The Celestial in the Ocean got paid off. Where the other Eternals are, what happened to Star Fox, Harry Styles, who even knows? Nobody knows, right? But, it got paid off. And The Incredible Hulk was a film that didn't get paid off for, 17 years. So, yeah, things can happen. But anyways, number one is actually something that got changed. I think, at least. And I think a lot of people think this relatively late into the process. And that is that Thunderbolt Ross is alive. That is one prediction I got very wrong. Although I do think that I was right at a certain point, because it looks like there was a funeral where Liv Tyler and Anthony Mackie were filming, and Thunderbolt Ross wasn't there, and it looks like the scene at the raft was kind of reshot, and Betty Ross was kind of CGI'd in there. I don't know. Hard to say. But no, Thunderbolt Ross is alive. And what's interesting about this is that Thunderbolt Ross is now in the raft with the leader and with Zemo. These are characters that I think could play a decent part in, a decent role in the MCU in the future, whether it's Thunderbolts. I think that, look, I've been speculating this whole time. Like, why is this team called the Thunderbolts? It has to have, it would be crazy if the president of the United States, who just turned into a Red Hulk, who just rampaged across, the United States, or DC, and is now in prison, right? Maybe that was a reason. Maybe Thunderbolts had a change. Maybe they were like, yeah, we actually kind of want Harrison Ford to pop up and during their reshoots, and so they had to change Captain America Brave New World. Who knows, right? Who knows? That seems a little bit much, but maybe they kind of realize we really need, Harrison Ford to come in Thunderbolts. Maybe. So I think maybe this has a part to play, because also, one of the things that we've talked about is that Zemo is a notoriously, very conspicuous absence of the Thunderbolts lineup. Zemo, it seemed like the prime candidate to be in the Thunderbolts, to kind of be one of the more, the guy pulling strings or the mastermind, the smart guy of the operations, right? And he's not. He's just not there. But Zemo, Leader, and Thunderbolt Ross are in the raft. And I think all three of these characters, I think it's pretty intentional. Like, I think, say what you want about the execution of everything that went on in Captain America Brave New World and about all the reshoots and all the different things that were changed, but I think it is very intentional on Kevin Feige's part to have these three characters show up in the raft together at the same time. What that looks like, I think, could play into Thunderbolts. In fact, I would think it has to, like I said, because of the name Thunderbolts. But maybe in the future, and who knows? Who knows how long Harrison Ford would want to be Red Hulk? I don't know. Maybe because of his age, this is just not a character that shows up again in the MCU. Maybe it's just Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts and he's done. I don't know. But we'll have to see about that. It could also be leading into a team like, Dark Avengers, if that's not what Thunderbolts is going for. So there's a lot of possibilities with the characters that are sitting in the raft. Speaking of the raft, number 2, the post-credit scene, right? So what the leader says about what is going to come, that seems pretty clear. It seems like Sam Wilson, he's being warned that there is going to be other worlds and other things that are going on in the multiverse that he is going to have to contend with, and that is, of course, Doomsday setup, Avengers Doomsday, the next Avengers film, coming out in 2026 May. So that is pretty obvious to me. But leading off of that, number 3 is that Sam Wilson has been given a directive from President Ross, or former President Ross, to re-establish the Avengers. That was something he was a bit iffy on, but by the end of the film, it looks like the Avengers are going to be re-established. Not only that, but it looks like Joaquin Torres is going to be a part of that team as well. So we're basically confirmed to have 2 members so far of whatever the Avengers team looks like in Doomsday. That is going to be Captain America and Falcon, Joaquin Torres. And so there is that. Number 4, X-Men, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago before Brave New World came out, but the director Julius Onah said, yeah, it seems pretty obvious, right, that Wolverine is going to be set up by all of this with Project X or Weapon X, and it looks like that is probably where they are going. Now, I said this in that segment where I was like, well, that's fine and all, but if the speculation is true that Earth 616 will probably not exist as we know it, right, heading into the end of the multiverse saga, what parts of the Earth 616 are going to be actually carried over into whatever the next phase looks like? Maybe this reconstructed universe will have all the stuff from, adamantium and whatnot. Maybe that's what they'll do. That seems plausible, right? So it seems like there is going to be a decent amount of setup here going into that with adamantium. And speaking of adamantium, number 5, so not just the X-Men setup, but number 5 is that the world is on fire. And the world is struggling for resources. They are fighting over these things. And not only that, but this is indeed setting up a Wakandan adamantium war, because now, based on whoever gets the adamantium, maybe the United States ultimately does end up with, the lion's share of adamantium by the time Black Panther 3 shows up. And that is really what that movie is about. I would be very down for that. I would be very excited for that personally, to see the political ramifications of, the United States getting their hands on adamantium, and the Wakandans and maybe the people from Talokan with Namor feel very threatened by this. And so they kind of band up, team up, and they go after the United States. But, it's kind of a back and forth Civil War style. So we'll see. We'll see about that. But I think that is one of the clear setups here that is going on. Adamantium is definitely going to clash with vibranium, especially as it becomes more common, as we assume that it's going to be mined out of the Celestial Island there. And then I think the last thing here that I wanted to talk about was really, Bucky Barnes. Bucky Barnes shows up in the Thunderbolts, and Bucky Barnes, right, is going to be a congressman in Thunderbolts, because there was some speculation that he was wearing the congressman pin, but it was like, well, is he kind of a guest, or is he a guest speaker, in that congressional hearing with Val? But no, it looks like he is actually going to be running for Congress. He mentions a campaign, and so it looks like Bucky will be an actual elected official come time for the Thunderbolts, which is interesting given his very spotted and checkered past right there. So we will see where all of that goes. I think there's a lot of interesting plot threads to pull from here in Captain America Brave New World, right? We have Red Hulk still on the loose. Not on the loose, but he's contained in the raft, but he's still out there. And then we have other characters and other plot threads to kind of wrap up here as we go along into the MCU, and we'll see how it all ends up going on with the Multiverse Saga. Guys, what do you think about all these different loose threads? And let me know if I missed one in the comments below, and let me know what you're most excited to see get paid off, hopefully sometime in the near future. Let me know in the comments down below.